No punches pulled.
Yeah, we're not very hardcore on the show. We usually let our guests do their own speaking, and we don't go too far.
I mean, we ask the hard-hitting questions like, how do you say your name?
Yeah, I know, right?
And then probably what your favorite Dorito or chip is, I think, is a question we've asked multiple times. So
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show, everyone. It's your boys, KJ, Nathan, and Patrick. We are
I'm
here.
Man, KJ.
Yeah, you are, but also you a boy. So that's just how.
are we the Janchi men now? Did we grow up?
Never,
I'd like to be the Janchi
ever.
man.
Nope. Then we'd have to launch our own line of barbering products. It'd be like, you can get a Janchi razor and like Janchi shaving cream. I don't.
Because we all sport the bunch of facial hair that we require facial hair products.
Well,
Hey,
we
they
need
don't
to
know.
shave
It's the
regularly
podcast,
because
man. We could be like lumberjacks. No one knows.
except for when you visit us on the live stream and you're like,
Well,
these.
then that's different.
KJ's got the most facial hair. I can't grow that much.
This is my
Yours is
pandemic
good.
facial hair.
You've been growing it since last year. Beginning of March.
It took me a very long time.
1 year's
Everyone-
worth.
Everyone was freaking out. They're like, I can't find a razor to shave my facial hair. It's like, I don't need a razor, baby.
I know. Mine just falls out for some reason. It's gross.
Gross.
Mine's patchy.
Same.
Anyways, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who tuned in on Facebook Live, on Clubhouse, on whatever platform it also was broadcast to that I maybe didn't even realize for our Solal Lunar New Year's live stream. That was so much fun. We announced a couple of big things. We announced our new ways to support the show in the Buy Me a Coffee with our shop, which will eventually drop. We're still working out some of the kinks, but very, very soon, excited to launch those things. And specifically wanted to shout out Jordan Van Hemert and Allison Nowak. Wait, she took your last name, right?
Yeah, she has my last name.
Okay, great. I feel like a Nathan trying to wait a minute. Do we talk about our names on air? Anyways, wanted to shout them out for becoming members on Buy Me Coffee. That is really, really fantastic. We are so blown away. My heart was so full. I couldn't believe that anyone would just be like, hey, here, let me chuck in $1 or whatever. It just really made my whole couple of days, however many days it's been, they have all been made. So thank you to everyone who has done that. Yeah.
We will eat the snacks graciously.
Yeah. Yes. You
And
honor us
voraciously.
and our tummies.
Why don't you explain what Janchi means for our first-time listeners?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's been a long time. It's been
a while.
It's been since last week.
Been a long time since I've rolled in. So Janchi means to celebrate, to feast, to have a good time with your favorite podcast, Korean American Adoptees. JK. I mean, it does mean all those things, but maybe not that last part. Anyways, so we use it because we want to celebrate who we are as people, celebrate who we are as Korean adoptees, celebrate the intersectionalities of our identities and the people that we have on the show. So this week we're going to keep it short because we have this really incredible interview with Nick Capicotto, and he is so gracious and so vulnerable with us and just tells us his story that prompts us to share our own stories in a really unique and powerful way. And I just wanted to take this moment kind of before we roll into the intro into our interview to thank all of our guests, previous and future. I feel like we get a lot of people who come on the show or who submit something to their guest form. You're like, my story isn't anything special or, whatever. It's another quote unquote run of the mill story. And I just wanted to take a moment. If you're listening to this, if you filled out the form, if you're thinking about filling out the form, if you're thinking about your life and your story is so special. And I think that's one of the things that we strive to do on the podcast is to uplift and amplify these voices, because for so long we've just been like, I don't know. I mean, my story is like however many other adoptee stories, and yet there are an infinite number of, maybe not an infinite, but there are so many different versions of the adoptee story. And every time I hear a new story, I am asked to be vulnerable. I'm asked to update my understanding of what it means to have an adoptee experience. And yeah, so I just wanted to encourage guests past and future to advocate for yourself and your story. Your story matters. Your story is good and is important. And just the fact that you have lived a life is reason enough for you to come on the show and share it. So thank you to everyone who has been vulnerable and has shared their story. Thank you to everyone who we're looking to have come and do that. So yeah, in the interest of time, we're rolling straight in. So here is our interview with Nick Capicotto. That's probably the best way to say that, right?
Probably just pick one or the other.
I would
think would be the best way.
Capicotto in.
Now cut a Nick Ha, and then you'll be good. You can use either or.
But yeah, he
Nick
talks about it.
Ha in. Hey everybody, before we get into the interview, I wanted to take a second and tell you about the Hello Korea box that was featured in episode 20. It was so fantastic. We are so grateful to Juliet and Hello Korea box for giving us a box. And
Would you like to say box again?
yep, Hello Korea box is a really fantastic box of goodies. We got K Beauty, we got K Lifestyle, we got K Snacks. Nathan, Patrick, what were your favorite parts?
My favorite part was the snacks. I really liked the socks. I've worn them many times. And I also like K stationery because I didn't know that Koreans had their own stationery. So I like
My wife told me that when I was wearing the socks, it was the most fun socks I own. So,
All right.
yes,
Sounds like you need to spice up your sock game, bro.
apparently so. And this box is the way to start.
I personally love the pens the most. I use them on the daily. They are amazing. But yeah, like everything in that box was really, really cool.
There was 2 packages of ramen too.
Oh yeah,
This
shoot,
one.
gotta
I
make
forgot
that.
about that.
Anyways, look, if you were like, man, this stuff is awesome and I want to get my own box, you can use Janchi 15 to get 15% off of your purchase at hellokoreabox.com.
If you want a little Korean culture in your life, at your home, make sure you go to hellokoreabox.com right now. Use code Janchi15 at checkout to save 15%.
On with the show.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. Here we are with our guest today. We have episode 26, I think, is we're going to do this one on, right?
We don't
and
know.
so we are back with Nick. Now, do you like Nick or Nicholas?
Nick, please.
Nick.
There's a few friends, special ones, who call me my full first name, but they've gotten exceptions over the years, so Nick's good.
I should have asked you that 5 minutes ago. That's why the guys are laughing.
Dude, I was about to commend you because the last time you had learned, you had like corrected your mistake. You're like, okay, we roll into the episode, and then you ask like, so how do you want your name pronounced? So this time we talked about that ahead of time, and then you're like, wait a minute, hold on, actually, Nick or Nicholas.
Still got to a name
'Cause
situation.
I saw his name on the Zoom, and I just instantly went to almost call him Nicholas, and then
Here,
was
I'll change
No,
it so
you
that way
don't
there's
have
no.
to.
No, I got it.
We're not
You guys
namists
just like
on the
making
show.
fun of me.
We're not namists. Come
am
on.
there. It's
I mean,
okay.
we are a little bit.
Okay, that's
This,
true.
that's what makes this all fun. So,
The comic
but,
part works too.
but Nick Capicotto, so Italian
Capicotto.
background. Tell us a little bit about your adoption story and where you were raised.
Yep. So I was. My records are not totally clean in the sense that they're super specific and accurate. So like I know I was born in the Gyeongsang province or region. So based on some other details, I think that probably means like near the Busan area. I tell people Busan, but my records don't specify a city. So that's where I was born in the mid 80s. I was put up for adoption 3 days after my birth and got adopted 4 months later to a family in the beautiful city of Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely no snow that falls there ever, or a football team that has
Let's
lost.
go Bills. Woo.
Yeah, or lost 4 straight Super Bowls. So none of that rings any bells. But I came to a family who they thought they weren't able to have kids naturally, and after trying for a number of years, it didn't work out naturally, and they looked to, I don't know if this was like Korean adoption was their first choice or if they looked at other routes. It's never been a topic we've discussed, but anyways, they ended up getting me from Korea when I was 4 months old, and then after that, lo and behold, things worked the natural way because I have a brother who's biological to my adoptive parents, a year younger than me. I have a sister biological to them, 3 years younger than me. And then my father, through his second marriage, had another child. So he's my, I guess, half brother's the correct term, who's, believe it or not, 18 years my junior. So I'm just like a weird uncle to him more than anything. But grew up in Buffalo, New York, very, very white upbringing in an American or white American suburbia. Didn't have much other Asian presence around. There was one other Korean adoptee who was, I'm not sure, I think they're like distantly related to us family wise. We've always treated them more like family friends more than relatives. I think she's like a, I don't know, fourth cousin, couple times removed. I don't know how to go through that. And then true family friends, they had a Korean adopted son who was around a little bit when I was growing up. We've kind of fallen out of touch. All of us have kind of fallen out of touch, especially since I've moved away from Buffalo. But other than that, though, they were really the only regular, Asian people around in my life, which wasn't even that much until, I guess, college, which was a time when I definitely didn't associate with other Asian people. I was too busy trying to white out all the time because that's what I knew from growing up. But in terms of my adoptive family, I mean, it was a great upbringing in terms of I was always food on the table. I always had presents at Christmas, and there's always a good roof over my head, or well, two roofs because my parents divorced when I was fairly young, so it was two roofs, I guess, for most of my formative years. So that kind of created an additional little wrinkle in my years as an adolescent and a teenager to have to kind of balance that in as well, and whatever effects that likely had.
How was your relationship with your brothers, I guess?
Yeah, I mean the really younger one, I mean, we're not real close, but then again, how many siblings or half siblings that are a whole generation difference in age are really that close? I mean, we're about as close as you'd expect two people of almost 20 years age difference to be. The other brother, who's a year younger than me, we were definitely very close growing up. We weren't always buddy, but we were involved in a lot of the same things, played in the same baseball team. But I think a lot of our fighting would have been probably the same crap that any other two young American boys who are a year apart would have done with each other. To be honest, now I don't want to say we're distant or that we're close. I think we're somewhere in the middle. But it seems as I've gotten older, with a lot of my family, our relationships seem a little forced at times. And definitely when I was growing up, different family members, it was very forced, and it's always been kind of that way. So I don't mean to say that with my brother who's close in age that we have a bad relationship, but it seems like we both kind of try a little too hard sometimes to make it work, and I'm not sure what that really signifies, but it does seem a little bit manufactured at times.
Sure. Hey, really quickly, Nick, do you have a robot vacuum that's running right now?
I don't. You get a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I can't figure out what it is.
I hear a hum too, and I was curious.
Oh, you have a Yeti?
I do.
So the way you're oriented, you're not at like the diaphragm. So can you set it to be perpendicular to your desk? Yeah, there you go. That's the front of it.
That's the way.
Oh,
wow. Yeah.
All right.
There it is.
That sounds nice.
Now we get those dulcet tones, baby.
I literally just busted this bad boy out like a week ago, so I'm still figuring out how the hell to use it.
Yep.
This is the real reason.
That's why we got KJ, the microphone pro here.
No, this is the
Pro.
real reason I wanted to come on this. It wasn't to talk
And that's the show. Thanks for explaining your family history, and we out.
So easy.
No, that sounds much better, actually. There's no hum in the background, and yeah, we can hear you clearer. So
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, because it was picking
The
Literally
fan.
pointed like straight at the fan. That's
right. It was a test.
That was good.
KJ passed.
Good job, KJ.
Nah.
Good. Let's start over. So I can ask Yeah, I'm curious on how many times, because that my sister was adopted, so both of us were Asian growing up in
Our
a
Asian,
white.
dude.
Our Asian. We're
You haven't, I don't think either of you have stopped being Asian.
So we we're always surrounded by Caucasian friends and stuff in Oklahoma. But I'm curious, did you get often the question of people that didn't know you when you were walking with your brother and you'd be walking around, people would be like, oh, and you guys are friends, or who's this with you? Or did most people know that you guys were brothers?
I definitely did get those questions. To be honest, when I was a kid, and even up through probably like my early teen years, I used to brush that stuff off really easily, mostly because, yeah, I mean, I knew I was Asian the whole time, but like if you really asked me, like, no, like, I'm just another white kid in the family who just, looks like this. And I probably was asked that question more than I remember. But yeah, no, I was definitely asked that question. And there would be times when, like, my brother, who's blonde hair, and well, he actually has brown eyes, but blonde hair, very, typical American white looking guy. When we were kids, he would like say at a sports practice, like the first one of the year, like, oh, well, my brother's here too. And like on like our baseball team, oh yeah, there's definitely going to be another blonde guy who looks, 80 times more like him than I do. And like the coach would be like, oh, I'm kind of like pointing around, like, oh yeah, which one? It's like, oh no, it's that one's the Asian kid. And it never really bothered me, because I think, who the hell would ever expect that? Not that there's like no transracial adoptees in the world. It's just, you don't, I think as a white American, or even me as an Asian American, I don't assume that like every person out there has a sibling of a different ethnicity or different race. So
It's not the first thing you go to.
No,
Yeah.
no, maybe I should now, but it's I don't.
Well, I think that is happening more and more these days with the awareness that we're trying to bring, and other things in the media and the news and the documentaries that keep coming out. I think more and more people are aware of that now. I mean, they always knew adoption was around, but I think it's more of a eye-opening thing for a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, this is a valid option, even though they knew it was, before. I think it's just because it's more the awareness is there. That's at least what I'm hoping. But
yeah, and actually the situations, the occasions that really stick in my mind the most about that was, so growing up in Buffalo, the Canadian border is right there. So, we used to go over to Ontario all the time for weekend in Toronto, or over Niagara Falls, Ontario, for one thing or another. And I remember crossing the border with, and this is back in like the early 90s. So not now where, you can't, we can't cross the border now anyways, but, now it's like you need to show everything to be able to cross it. Like back then it was much looser, but the customs agent would almost always ask my mother, my father, or my grandparents, whoever was driving, to pull the car up a few feet so that they could look in the back window, and they would ask me, who are these people? Or who are these people to you?
Yeah.
And I remember sometimes, not like super vividly, but enough times where it kind of like manifests in my mind of like, what did this question really mean? That's my grandfather, that's my mother, that's my father, like that's my brother, that's my sister. And it almost just like flew over my head, like, why is this person asking me this question? And then when I was finally old enough, at maybe 10, 12 years old, to think, well, this looks exactly like a little Asian kid getting smuggled across an international border. Like that's the situation was probably originally viewed. So there was times when I had to get out of the car and try to demonstrate to this customs agent that I was in fact a relative. I was this guy's son, this woman's son, this the grandchild of my grandparents or whoever it was. And I think it was more confusing to me than it was nervous. I'm like, now, oh my God, if I were to get pulled out of my car by a customs agent, like, whoa, like I haven't done any illegal drugs in the last day or anything, or I'm not drunk or anything. But back then it's like, what have I done? Like, I haven't done anything. Like, why are you doing this to me?
Profiling. I mean, it really is.
So you said those are memories that stick out very vividly to you. What was from your perspective your family's reaction to those instances of crossing the border and being profiled like that?
In the moment, they obviously were silent, as you're supposed to be. It's like, one person talks to the agent at a time, but afterward, honestly, I don't recall us really talking about it that much, other than maybe just a very quick at the end of the day, or as soon as we were at our destination, saying, like, you're our son, and that's the only thing that's important to remember in that case. And that would really be it. There wasn't really much further explanation that I can remember. But then again, we're going back to when I was 5 or 6 years old.
I think that's one of those few cases where maybe it's, quote unquote, more acceptable for that type of profiling thing to happen, because it is kind of an issue of security. But I don't think it's entirely dissimilar from even, the coach assuming that your brother's brother was one of the white kids. And it's that type of, like, I've been thinking about microaggressions, I guess, just in the course of being on the show. And it's just, in the more nuanced example of the coach on the baseball team, the assumption that your brother's brother was white, and then being that assumption being met with, no, actually he's the Asian one, and that like reaction being like, oh, okay, as if it's just that it's that little twinge of, oh, this isn't normal, and this like isn't what I expected, and this doesn't fit into the world that we have and the world that we exist in, right? And so I think that there is kind of a level of like kind of at every moment where you remember that you are adopted, where you are told, like just those moments of like, oh, I didn't expect that you were part of this family, is I think that adoptees really internalize like, this is not normal. We are not a part of this family. This is not what people expect. We are regularly outside of this family unit who I feel like I belong to. And then on top of just like the actual trauma of adoption, that can be really hard to wrestle with. And so, I think I don't envy your parents for being in the situation with Border Patrol, being like, hey, so you just got profiled, and us being white parents probably don't have to deal with that. So we don't really have language to give you, our 5-year-old kid. And also like, how much is this really going to affect you? And, like we're finding out like quite a bit. But yeah, that's a rough situation. But I think, it's just like one of those things, even as I'm thinking about my own history, I'm like, oh, okay. Like for some reason, I didn't understand microaggressions. I now kind of understand microaggressions and why, like how they are a systemic thing, like regardless of the individuals who might have actively fought against that doesn't stop every instance from hitting you and impacting you and things like that. I'm curious if it's okay for me to pivot.
Yeah.
You said briefly when you were talking about growing up that when you went to college that you really gravitated towards I think you said doing the white guy things or something like that.
Whiting out, yeah.
That could be a Buffalo snowfall kind of.
Sure, no, I've heard it too in Indiana,
probably...
so I get it.
Yeah.
Lake effect.
Well, and so I'm curious, on your form, you said that you had kind of gravitated away from people of color, and that your form implies that there's been like this change and all that. So I guess take me to college and whiting out. First off, I'd love just to know what whiting out means to you, because it's such a funny turn of phrase. But also after that, like what's been the shift, and like as you gain more comfort, like what's that shift been like to go from like really in college being like, yep, white people are my people, I'm gonna go hang out with them, to now like seeking out more diverse communities?
That was something pretty much that encompassed and embodied my overall view of my world, probably until, I mean, I'm in my mid 30s now, so until, like probably 5 years until I was like 30. So college was just in the middle of that, where it wasn't that I was ever that I gravitated away from Asian people or other non-Caucasian individuals. I mean, I'd never had any problem with other Asian people if they were around me, or black people, Latino people, whatever. But I never put any, say, voluntary effort into trying to associate or be in the presence of them. Again, it wasn't because I had some kind of like hate built up or animosity, but it it's probably no different than how people tend to gravitate toward what they think they are or what they're used to being. So people who all like a particular sport, they'll hang out with people who also play that sport or also follow that sport or whatever it might be. And I think for me, it was exactly that, and anything different felt foreign. And maybe this is the big gut punch. It felt like I was giving up on my ability to assimilate into white America. And I think that's been one of the biggest struggles of my life, even to this day still. And it's getting a little bit better as I'm kind of getting more comfortable in my own skin. But was this fear of, if I start hanging out with Asian people, it is going to be perceived by some of my white network or my white friends, or even in my own mind on the surface, that I couldn't make it as a white guy. So now I'm taking this proverbial easy way out and hanging out with people who look like me, even though we don't probably think the same, or
Yeah, even though the mental hoops are probably like way harder to
Right.
hang out with people who look at you. Like, I have
Exactly.
no relationship with your experience, but I guess I'm supposed to be your friend or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And it's been this fear, I guess, of acceptance. And with that, it's always carried a very strong sense of self inadequacy, like not being, like, I always felt that, despite how quote unquote comfortable I felt around white people for the majority of my life, and probably still now, it always felt like I was going into the race like with a deficit. Like I was never as cool or as awesome or as good looking or as tall as all the white white male friends that I had. So, and that was always my benchmark, was my white male friends. And I mean, I'm sure he'll hear this one day, but my white male brother was very much, the same way brothers compete with each other. But I don't know if he ever knew that, I viewed our sibling rivalry as probably more daunting than if, I was a white guy too.
Nick, and your story really resonates with me, especially your feelings and your actions in college, because that's exactly the same thing that I did. I grew up in a predominantly white town. I was like, I've relayed this a few times, but there were points in my life where I prayed to be white. Like I wished that I was, because there was obviously some mistake made. And in college, I think I was coming to be more comfortable with being like an Asian, I guess, but I was not comfortable with stepping outside of that circle for that same fear of, if people see me hanging out with Asian people, then I'm going to lose every friend that I've ever known because they're all white. And my family's going to think that I'm starting to abandon them because they're white. And it just became like this pall, or this mark inside me that was just constantly like, don't do it. Don't do it. Like whenever you wanted to like start to explore, or myself, like whenever I wanted to like start doing something, there was just something there that was just no. And so I completely understand when you're saying, these feelings of self inadequacy. Like I've recently been struggling with that a little bit, just with some other stuff. And, I just think it's powerful, and I appreciate you sharing that, because for myself, hearing another person, another adoptee go through even that same experience, more so as an adult than as growing up in a predominantly white town as a kid, is really resonant to me, and it just I really appreciate you sharing that. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Honestly, I think as a kid, it affected me less because I was able to much easier sweep it under the carpet. I mean, I think I was so good from like high school and younger at sweeping under the carpet. I could have probably started my own cleaning business back then. And
love it. That was great. That was great.
Yeah, I'm a part-time comedian, unpaid.
Nice.
That I don't think it affected me. I mean, it did, but I don't think it really concentrated or manifested enough where it induced the worry, kind of as you were describing, of the almost like the damned if you do, damned if you don't. This seems like a lose-lose situation. And then as an adult, like as I became better at thinking critically and logically, and especially about myself, it's like, oh man, like it gets worse. And I think I was protected a lot as a kid growing up. Like I went to a private Catholic school almost the entire time from kindergarten up through high school. So to be honest, like a lot of the like racially demeaning comments or stuff like that, I'll be frank, like I didn't get it that often. Or if I did, I just, again, I swept it under the rug. But I don't feel like I got it that often, probably because I was in such a sheltered, controlled environment where it just wouldn't have happened as much. Not to say that, like, well, if you don't go to a private Catholic school, you're in the public system, you're just a barbarian.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't feel like I was called the names. I mean, but there was this one little period of time when my parents had long been separated, where I was living exclusively with my father, and I went to a public school for part of 7th and all of 8th grade. And man, was that a backhand to the face in terms of, you are the only Asian. And this was in like super small town America. Like this was like a little bit away from Buffalo. We were kind of out in the boonies. So man, that was just a backhand to the cheek, and that you are the only Asian guy in this school. Every other student, this was public school, every other student is going to make sure you know that. And that's when, like, really the only significant bullying for being Asian ever happened, during my developmental years. And that was like, whoa, that did not know to expect that.
That's funny. That's really similar to like what I experienced, but slightly removed from that. So I was in private Christian education for most of my like K through 12 years, except for 3rd through 5th grade, which I lovingly refer to as the dark ages. But like, it's funny because like looking back, I remember in public elementary, race was a huge issue on the playground, because like in Dallas, it was like when we played soccer, or like there was always a soccer game going on, and it was just like all of the Latinos versus all the non-Latinos. But like, so there was like a big racial delineator like on the field. And that's also, I think, when I thought the most about being Asian American was during my public school years. And then I kind of left it aside. And I think there's kind of that thing with Christian organizations, or the Christian schools, or whatever, where there's like a coding of nicety that just kind of pervades. Like you just have to be, not that like people can't still be dicks, but there's a coding of nicety that you are expected to maintain, and for me too, like if somebody said something even mildly racist or xenophobic, or like whatever, I think that going through even through high school and probably part of college wouldn't even have caught that, because that race just wasn't on my radar at all. Like in the quote unquote safe space of this white Christian school, where it was like we didn't really talk about race with my family, we didn't really talk about race with my school. So like if somebody had said something ignorant or hateful or whatever, I just like it just would have gone straight over my head. So but yeah, I think, you know, from my experience, I also didn't experience a lot of that. There probably were some things and I just wasn't even aware enough to know. So
most of my bullying came in Boy Scouts, because I was probably one of the only Asians in Boy Scouts, and typically got bullied there and picked on. Could have also been just because of my personality. Who knows? I always
Your walk.
think, I don't really know. I mean, I think back to it and I was like, I got bullied, but was it because I was annoying or was it because I was Asian? I mean, I really...
At least you have the self-awareness to be like, I might have been a super obnoxious
I might
kid.
have been, a brat. I don't know. But I do. I think back to those moments and I don't know. And I wish I was more aware some days when I think back to my childhood, to the point of just, asking other people is like, did you ever see me, me get bullied or this and that? But, and
asking your friends like, was I annoying as a kid?
Well, when I see videos of myself as a kid, I go, yep, I was annoying. So, and Nick, I just want to say the same thing with Patrick too, and then we can move on to the next topic. But I agree with what you said about going to college. I veered away when I went to college because one of the first things I got was a phone call and a letter from the Asian American Pacific Islander Club, and they wanted me to join, and I just was like, nope, I don't want to do that. I don't want.
That's a super intimidating phone call.
Yeah, it was a very one, and I was like, the reason I almost felt like it was like they were only inviting me because I was Asian, and they wanted to I was thinking of it in a completely wrong way. I was like, like they're trying to get me in, and only because I'm Asian, not because of who I am as a person, and I didn't like that. I didn't like being set in that physical face, you belong in this club kind of thing, even though I was adopted. So I didn't join. Instead, I went and joined a fraternity and just partied all the time. So, yeah, and it was just a weird thing, but it was one of those moments that I was like, I need to decide, do I, associate more? And it wasn't that I had anything against them. It was more the fact that I just didn't want to be, among just only Asians. I actually wanted a diverse group of friends and a diverse group of people. And that's where I thought the fraternity would be, even though it was 95% white. I guess the party part of that kind of took over. We later got another Asian in the fraternity, but
and that's when you started your pro ping pong career.
Yeah, well, that's
right.
The funny thing too is the only place I did see other Asians was when I went to go play table tennis, and it was like, okay, now I feel, and I should have realized
I found my people.
Yeah, I found my people here, and then okay, I'm out. I'm gonna go back to my white fraternity.
Yeah, they're like, all right, we're gonna go back to the Asian American club. You coming? Nope. Gonna go back to the white fraternity.
I got my bros to go hang out with.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's doing a keg flip.
There's so many things I wish I had known, just even in college. But so when you went to college in Michigan, right?
I went to grad school in Ann Arbor there. I did all my other schooling back in Buffalo. So I didn't leave Western New York until I was in my mid-20s to go to Ann Arbor.
What brought you? So just school, and then you decided to stay out there, or?
Yeah, I mean, there was a little stint right after school after I graduated. That was in good old Peoria, Illinois. If anyone's familiar with,
I
know
the middle of the cornfields of Central Illinois. Yeah, P-Town. Yeah, what a place.
P-Town.
I know about that. I live Central Indiana, baby.
Shouts out to my friends who listen who are from around that area.
Yeah. So if anyone wants $100 to guess where I worked when I was there, you'll probably get that $100. But yeah, I went there to
Walmart,
fill out at Caterpillar for a little period of time, and then made my way back here to the Mitten.
Okay. What did you study in grad school at Michigan?
So, okay, this is a good segue into, in some ways, I'm like the least Asian guy ever, but in other ways, I'm like the most Asian mofo ever.
Okay.
So I have both a master's and a bachelor's in engineering. So like I went to U of M for operations engineering. So, and like to this day, I'm still more or less in that field. I work in automotive now. So I'm super Asian, like when it came to my education and my profession.
Wait, do you drive a Honda?
I don't. I drive a Euro trash, so I guess that's the non-Asian part coming out.
I fell into that category. I actually had a Acura Integra for a very long time, and then a Honda after that. So
Yeah, oddly, like I did the only quote unquote like Asian person. Well, no, I had a Toyota when I first started driving as a teenager. My grandparents gifted me their Toyota sedan at the time, but I guess technically it falls under the Ricer category, but I had a hatchback Volkswagen for a period of time.
Nice.
So even though it's German, I guess that's still kind of a cool Asian guy kind of car. It was manual, so I guess that counts.
There you go.
did you have a good stereo in it too?
No, I've never been too much into like tuner stuff with any of my cars. I mean, I do my own
Did you
car
put
work.
NOS in it?
No, I definitely would not have qualified.
Live your
for
life
one of the
one
Fast and Furious
one quarter
movies.
mile at a time.
I was not living 1/4 of a mile at a time. It took me way more than 10 seconds to do anything.
I had two 12-inch subwoofers in my trunk. So
Of course
I,
you did.
I fell into that.
You're rolling up to your
category.
table tennis tournament like,
I
sup?
don't even know what music you're listening to out of those two
So,
12-inch
Chopin.
subs.
And here's the funny thing.
You need the subs to listen to Chopin.
My license
I
plate
would.
was actually TABL10S.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
Nathan! How did this podcast?
How have we never talked
it's
about
good that
this
this
before?
is coming out now.
I forgot
'cause, like,
to mention that on the last our last
Wait,
episode.
why did it stop? Why did it stop being that?
I hung it on the wall. I don't know. I'm a nerd.
This show is called The Janchi Show, #, the journey of Nathan's table tennis career.
Oh my gosh!
I love it.
So moving on. Let's go back a little
Nathan
bit
is
more.
like,
let's
get
get
back
away
to
from
Nick.
my table tennis
Yeah.
and get back to the story of.
I'm enjoying it.
You said you were adopted through New Beginnings, which our last guest, Lauren, was also
I noticed
through
that. So shout out to New Beginnings, I guess.
Yeah. Even though she kind of badmouthed them.
Yeah,
I
Not
mean,
great,
I
but-
think a lot what's going on. I know at the very least Patrick is following what's going on in Korea right now with the way they're
president,
kind of like
yeah.
treating people with the sense like you're like a Christmas gift in a way. But I mean, the adoption agency side of it, I guess I don't have enough of an opinion yet about that. So to say that like New Beginnings is a really good or really bad entity, I
hear you.
I think that's really
ungrounded
typical
opinion.
of coming like on this journey. Is you come into a community that finds themselves at all different places of experience or vocabulary or whatever. Like that there is a real fluency, I think, in understanding what we're talking about, and like even being aware of like what things should I pay attention to. You know, like I think when I first really started coming out of the fog, which is a term we use to basically say start the journey. When I really started it, I was like, whoa. And that was just perusing casually in Facebook groups that there was lots of different talk about pro-adoption and anti-adoption and like how we feel about our birth parents or going back to Korea or like, I don't know, there's like 800 million different paths that we can talk about, that it's just kind of us reclaiming our narrative or us talking about and learning how to talk about our experiences. You know what I mean? So I totally get where you're at about being like, I just don't know enough yet. And that may never be even a thing that I care to learn about, you know, like adoption agencies and the social system of adoption and kind of all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, Nathan, I think you were kind of going there with your question of, you know, me and what my status is now with it and coming out of the fog, and which is a term I learned just a couple months ago. So I had been in it for 30 whatever years and didn't realize it. So yeah, how about that? Joke's on me. But it all happened it's been happening very quickly for me. And it's something that I did not have the guts to, I think in the back of my mind, I always wanted to look into it more, because I'm a person who likes closure with things, doesn't like leaving knots untied or loose ends or things unfinished. But it scared the bejesus out of me to start looking into it. And if you can believe it or not, the real kind of catalyst to get me over the hump was, if anybody's familiar with that show, This Is Us, I saw the trailer for it when it was just starting a few years ago, and I said, this is an interesting story. It's like, he's not Asian, but he's still a transracial adoptee with siblings who are biological to their white parents. Like, sounds a hell of a lot like my story. You know what? I'm not big into watching series, definitely not like network drama series, but I'll go outside the box and I'll watch the pilot. And it really hit me in the feels. I don't cry often. I definitely don't cry when other people can see me. And I don't think I've ever cried like at a movie or TV show ever. But like that got me there. That first episode got me there. And I think that was just like that little bit of extra emotional encouragement to finally dive in and start looking into it. So the first thing I did, and there's really so few people in my network that know this, is I contacted my adoption agency, New Beginnings, to start the process of trying to see if we could figure out, anything or ideally locate some or all of my birth family. And I spoke with the person there, and she gave me the forms I needed to fill out and the documentation that I would need to provide to them to start the search going. And I remember that I needed stuff from my mother kept all of my adoption paperwork and whatever stuff just in a box, and she had it for, since forever. And I didn't want anybody to know that I was doing that family wise. There's a couple really close friends who I said, this is what I'm going to do, but they're all friends who they don't know anybody else that I know. Mm-hmm. So they're like 1-to-1 friends.
Your secret friends.
That's right. The secret society of friends. They all know me, but they don't know each other, and that's on purpose. So I told a couple of them, didn't want anybody in my family. It's like, geez, how am I gonna like effectively con my mother into sending me this stuff without her knowing? So I just, I don't think there's a way I'm gonna be able to do it. It's like if I wait till I go home, which wasn't going to be imminently at that point, like if I just take it, like she's gonna find it eventually, and then like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess that's no different than just saying like, Mom, I want this stuff. So, can you send it to me? So I did. She probably had an inkling, and she still doesn't know to this day that I've done this. And if any of my family members do know it, it's either because it's made its way through the grapevine somehow, or they've just guessed right, but don't really know that they've guessed right. So got the necessary stuff from my mother, submitted it, and the woman at the agency said, okay, just, sit tight. This could take a month or two. This could take a year. We don't know what we're going to get. If we get anything, we don't know if it's going to be 100% true. We don't know, you're certainly not going to know how you feel about it, because we don't know what it's going to be, if anything. So okay, all right. I kind of almost wish, I hope this takes a little bit more time, because it'll give me more time to get emotionally ready for it. I think it was about 3 or 4 months, which I was surprised. Like, that was a bit quicker than I thought it would be. And I remember the day very well. I was at the office. This would have been in 2017, if I remember correctly. And the woman who I'd spoken to initially called me, and I was in a meeting or something, so I couldn't answer the call. So she left me a voice message and said, when you get a chance, call me back. We've heard back about a few things. I have a lot of updates to give you. Make sure you're in a safe space that you can listen to this. Doesn't have to be today, but when you get a chance, give me a shout back, and be in a secure location, I guess emotionally secure location.
Oh, not operating heavy machinery or something.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't at Caterpillar at the time, but definitely you wouldn't want to be operating an excavator while listening to this
I'm
call.
shingling my new roof. What? Tell me.
Right. Or, right before skydiving.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like, I'm not going to pull the chute. So I called her back as soon as I got out of that meeting, which was, I think, a couple hours after she initially called me. She said, are you in a good spot? Like, you're not like standing at the ledge of a building, something like that. It's like, no, I'm just outside the office building here. Give me the rundown. So what we ended up finding out is my birth father, they were from all what we can tell, they were married. So it wasn't, at least from what we received and what was originally in my paperwork, that it was like an affair or a quickie one night stand kind of situation. Is my biological father passed away. He was a commercial fisherman, and he passed away in a vocational accident 2 months before I was born. And I have a biological sister who's 6 years my senior, and a biological brother who's 4 years my senior. And because of the situation with the death, my biological mother was strongly urged at the maternity home where I was delivered that she would not be able to financially support now a family of three, and that she should, from what it sounded like, she was essentially like, you need to put this kid up for adoption. Like, it's just not going to happen here. So 3 days later, I was on my way to Seoul to get placed in foster care and was added to the list of adoptee candidates. And my number was 85C297.
Wow. You remember the number?
Yeah, I never knew it until a few years ago when I looked at my
he learned
paperwork.
it, and then
Exactly. These are my first words.
I don't know. Tattooed across your chest or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
the crazy thing was that, like, I never knew what those numbers meant initially. And then maybe like a year after finding out all that stuff, I was like, I wonder what these numbers mean. Like, is it just a random set of numbers? And I found out, the first number is the year in which your case was added to the system, which that didn't surprise me. The second number is which number case you are for that given calendar year. And from what I've been able to find through a little bit of research, the year I was born and placed through adoption was the highest single year number in the history of the whole Korean international adoption process. And I guess I have to believe that because I was added to the list. My birthday was actually this month, but I was added to the list, and I was already number 297 that year.
What was your initial reaction on that phone call when you got that information?
The good news was it was in the afternoon. I didn't have any more meetings or anything like that to do for the day at work, but the woman who I spoke with, she said, are you okay? Like, yeah. I just need to process. And so she said, give us a call back, send me an email, whatever, as a follow up. If, there's anything you want to talk about or whatever, just give me a holler. I said, okay, thank you. End of the phone call. I walked to the very far end of the parking lot. It was a big building, so big parking lot. Walked to the very far end of the parking lot. Thank God it was a nice day out that day. Sat down on the curb at the edge of the parking lot, way the hell away from the building. I wasn't looking at my watch that close, but I bet I just sat there and thinking for at least an hour and a half, just about what I just heard. And I wasn't crying at all at that point. It was, I think, too much to process at that very moment in time. It was just kind of thinking, oh, they weren't able to locate it. Sorry, I should have added, like, they weren't able to get any information about locations, whereabouts, or even, was anybody still alive or anything like that. And I guess it just skip forward. The case remains unsolved, and that, like, we've never found it anymore. But in that moment, it was thinking, my goodness, like, I'll never meet assuming all this is true, I'll never meet my biological father, and he never had a chance to meet me. There's a damn good chance that if, assuming my brother, sister, and mother are still alive, that I'm never going to meet them. Not that it's impossible, but it hit me that, like, I'm probably there's a good the chances are it's not going to happen. And I guess maybe I could at some point hire a private investigator to try to dive into it a little deeper. But that really had me hung up for a while, and I thought a lot over the following months of, do I want to pursue this further? Do I really want to try to locate these people if in fact they do exist and they're still alive? And I eventually, going against what I'm normally like with trying to close things out, I've made peace with the fact, and it took me probably about 2 years after that to make peace with the fact that it's probably not going to happen. And I have done DNA testing since then, as I wanted to know some stuff about my medical health, but also I won't lie, like a little bit of a hope that, like, hey, maybe someone's going to know somebody through that. They didn't. Like, there's some very distant cousins that probably wouldn't lead me anywhere. But, I kind of, I go in every maybe once a quarter and check who my new contacts might be through that, just to maybe one day I've, met other people that it's like, yeah, they did it. And then multiple years after, lo and behold, someone close enough to the biological family, like, came up in the list, and they got in contact and was able to make a reunion out of it. So there's a little bit of hope in my mind that could happen one day, but realistically, I'm not expecting it. I'm not holding my breath on it.
I really want to thank you for sharing that with us. That's a journey, and that's a lot of stuff to come up. And I couldn't imagine even receiving that phone call and trying to process. And like you said, it wasn't 2 hours later that you're able to make peace or semblance of something like that. It's 2 years. And trying to find that closure, I think, as an adoptee, especially when you get information that says, yes, you have relatives alive, or you have relatives at some point, whether they're alive or not, we're still trying to figure that out. And I think it's a powerful thing to hear for other adoptees and adoptive parents, anyone who may be listening, solely because I think it's such a rare thing. We talked about on a previous episode, 10 to 15% of people are going to find something, and 85% of people are not going to. And I was actually not going to talk about this for a while, but I feel like your story makes me want to share this. Is I just got my DNA test results back from 23andMe today, and 99.8% Korean. Learned a little health stuff, a little trait stuff, but the thing that I was kind of disappointed about was I did not have any close relatives at all. And I don't know if I was going into it thinking that was going to happen. I think I had felt like I had mentally steeled myself for that eventuality, and holding a little bit of hope, like you said, after your DNA test. But I can't say that I was happy to have nothing. It was really kind of disheartening for a second. But I think hearing you explain your story and your process of going through that and continuing to hold hope, just a sliver, even though, nothing may come of it, really helped me, I think, just in this moment of kind of processing that and knowing that, if it happens, it'll happen, So I just wanted to thank you for that, and just for sharing your story in general. I think it's a really powerful one, and I think it's really important for our audience to be able to hear.
Yeah, no, thanks, Patrick, for sharing that about you, especially with it just coming in now, and you've really had no time to process your own additional or new situation. And I know for me, for other listeners who are going to listen to this in the future, one of the toughest things is, I'm sure my family, and I think I kind of wanted to come on with you guys here, in that this maybe is I don't know if it's the best way or the ideal way, but kind of like my own. I have to imagine now that it's like going to be more public. My family is going to start to find a way to come across this. I mean, it's not going to stay as secret, and I was fully aware of that coming in. But I think this is kind of like my
Oh, good. I was like,
safe.
Well, there go all those listens.
Yeah. My safe, happy median of either just not telling them ever, which I haven't still, versus just sitting them down or one-on-one sitting them down and saying, hey, this is what I know that you don't know that I know about myself. So maybe this is the cowardice way of doing it and like having them hear this way. But one of the things I've always been terrified to ever make external, or that I was feeling with my family, is that I ever felt any of the ways I did were related to being adopted, being Asian, not looking like my family or really anybody around me for most of my life. I always, I think I was almost going back to what I was hitting on before about being afraid to fail within white America. Was if I feel or I divulge or admit that I think the way that I'm feeling bad about something that's related to, or a certain behavior of mine is related to my unique situation being Asian or adopted, that it's either going to offend my family or it's going to make me seem really what I use kind of to help define it in my mind is not tough enough to compete in white America. It's kind of like an easy way out. And I think like going back to the whole like, well, if I befriended more Asian people during college, that would have been viewed as he can't compete with the white people in his network, so he's chickening out. Now he's going to go see if he can do better with the Asian people. And I have no idea if people really would have thought that about me, but that's what concocted in my mind. And I'm still struggling to get over that now. And it really has enveloped so many things. And I think one of the areas that a lot of Asian men, and especially I think Asian adopted individuals, kind of resonate on is how does the opposite gender perceive. And I know, I don't mean this as an indictment on, because I know, Patrick and KJ, you both have significant others who are, not Asian, but it was always a struggle of, because I'm living in whitewashed America, whiting out, how do white girls perceive me? And how often is it that I don't get the attention from them because I'm Asian? And it's, I don't, I mean, I guess I really don't know how much that was the case, but it probably was to some extent. And it kind of sucks that something so superficial can be so daunting, but I would be lying if I said it didn't induce those feelings from time to time.
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to echo what Patrick said. Thank you for sharing this with us. I mean, we have the benefit on this of like seeing your face, and I can see the work that you are putting into telling your story, which is an unfamiliar process to you. I can see the vulnerability of you literally just like putting it all out there and being like, here you go, fellas, as my new favorite adoptee friends. I'm just claiming us as your favorite adoptee friends.
Oh yeah, you're right at the top.
Yes.
100%.
Just like, hey, this space is good, and this is a thing that I want to share, and I think I literally just watched it happen. Like you sharing your story compelled another adoptee to share their story, and the four of us, and then the people who listen to this, like the whole community benefits from that kind of integrity, that kind of vulnerability, that kind of honesty. And I mean, I know like. There is nothing about telling your story this way, whether it is on film through a podcast, through a blog, whatever medium, like this type of, for something as emotionally complex and difficult and nuanced as this conversation is, to open the dialogue with a one-sided monologue and then asking somebody to enter into that by listening to you, and not giving them the opportunity to respond yet, I think is a really powerful way to enter in, because it forces the other party to enter in with a spirit of listening, even if that doesn't continue from then on, and so I think that this is such a good and a powerful and right way to do this. If you or another adoptee feels nervous about it, I think that's why you see a lot of adoptees writing memoirs, starting blogs, or in our case, starting a podcast, is because like we're like, hey, regardless of the situation with our adopted families or our birth families or whatever, there is a greater system at work that we are feeling a lot of things about, and that is race relations in America. That is adoption, international adoption in America, in Korea, or wherever your origin country is. That is so many things that for us, it's like Asian men in America, and how we're like, there's just so many layers to this. And I heard you say, and I don't know that we've ever actually used this language on the show, but like that kind of racial imposter syndrome of like, we all know that we're not white, and yet we feel most at home with white people. Also, we all know that we look Asian, and yet we are so incredibly intimidated by hanging out with a group of Asian Americans, right? Who aren't adoptees. Like there is like, it feels like we don't have a place, because in some ways we don't. And so we are regularly faced with, on top of already being given away by nature of us being adopted, and feeling like, regardless of what our parents, our adoptive families, regardless of the good work that they may or may not have done to make us feel welcome, like we always, I always feel like I'm trying to earn my place, right? And so there's so much nuance and complexity in all of this, and I just wanted to encourage you and to thank you again, really, for telling your story, for approaching this conversation with so much care for the people in your life, for the greater things at work. And I just wanted to say to you, to people listening, that a lot of what I feel and what I've heard in the sentiments of adoptees who echo what I feel is really geared at kind of the greater systemic issues of adoption, of race relation, of gender relation, of like all of these things. And it was things that I think the world, America, our families, whatever, just didn't have, they weren't going into this with quite the same awareness as people in 2020 are, as they were in 1985, 1993, when were you at, like 70 something? I don't remember. 1942. I'm just kidding. You're not that good.
We're not ageist on the show, bro.
Whoa.
No, I know. That's like a deep World War II. It wasn't even happening then. But you get my drift, right? It was like the world is progressing, right? And we are becoming more aware. We are becoming more complex human beings. And so, yeah, I think that's one of those things. That's one of the difficult parts, maybe the most difficult part of this conversation, is with adoptees. We all get it, even though we don't have maybe the best language for it yet, or we're still trying to find our language. But for people whom we love who aren't adoptees, you're like, but there's a lot. But I was like, it's not personal, unless it is, but it's not personal. It's personal to us against these kind of greater systems that even we may have unknowingly participated in, so it's just such a weird, hard, complex thing. But I so appreciate you sharing your story, and being this honest and being this vulnerable, especially for 4 American dudes, 2 of them especially, putting their hearts on their sleeves and being this vulnerable. I so value that. And so, greatly appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability, what's the word? You're being genuine. That part, whatever. Yeah, sure. Whatever the word is.
And for coming on the show, like you said, your family doesn't know yet. And now it's out there, and this may be the way that your family is finding out. It is definitely not cowardice. It is not, it is there. I don't think there is any right way to do what we all sometimes eventually get to, which is this coming out of the fog. And not everyone who comes out of the fog, though, searches for their biological family. So that is its own set of categories in itself. But doing that is, there's so many things that are involved in that, and we've talked about it on the show, and I know people talk about it online. Some people don't do it until their parents have passed away. Some people don't do it because they just have a feeling that their adoptive parents don't want them to do it, and so they're scared to do it. And then others have the full support of their family. And even if they have the full support of their family, they'll never really know if their family, what they feel about that. And that was one of my biggest fears, is that when I did it, I had to ask my parents, over and over again. I was like, are you guys okay with this? Are you, I do not want to replace you. I do not want to have this have anything to do with the way you brought me up. I'm not, saying that I'm not trying to, what's the word? I'm not trying to offend. I don't want to, to think that I was missing anything. And that's probably one of the reasons why it took me so long to do it, because I wasn't ever feeling like I was missing a family aspect. And so I just didn't want to do it. But then when I finally, talked to my parents about it, and after being inspired myself, it just was, they were so supportive. And I think there are those types of family members out there, and I think they'll understand, especially when they understand that this is something you're doing for yourself. This, in a way, it doesn't have anything to do with them and being, their family. This is you discovering your past and your story, and you can only hope that every parent and every family member understands that. And I think more and more are realizing that, especially in today's world, that sometimes this is just something we all need to do for ourselves.
Well said, man.
Yeah, for sure. It's been. I don't know if I was ever afraid of what my family would think about my investment to look into this stuff. I think it was more my own self fear of it making me seem like, even though it would be kind of an attempt to better my self identity, it would be a detraction at the same time from the identity I've built up for multiple decades. And I think it's coming to an acceptance that it's not, one doesn't replace the other. It just simply adds to you. It makes you more comprehensive and more whole. It doesn't, it's not a case where, well, in order to add this new thing, you have to clear space. So that means you have to expunge something else out from your life previous.
Because all of that past is a fact. All of that stuff that you find has already happened, is real. It's information that is there. And, I commend you for doing it, like I said. So
yeah, fortunately, being human isn't a zero-sum game.
No.
You just get to add things. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I went to engineering school,
unless you need to
do all that math.
So. Yeah, absolutely. So Nick, man, thank you again for sharing. If people want to reach out to you and say, hey, I appreciated you telling your story, and they feel comfortable, with you, and want to swap stories, if they want to reach out to you, man, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, thank you guys first and foremost for the opportunity here. This was, I think it was one of those times that was probably equally scary and exciting at the same time. Like I'm sweating in my shirt here out of nervousness and anxiety, positive anxiety, like equal amounts. But yeah, if people want to reach out to me, and please do, like I always try to tell anybody I speak to, like if I'm going to take the time to speak to you or in a medium where you're going to listen to me, like please use me as a resource. But on Instagram, and this is definitely a play on the words of that whiteout situation. So my Instagram handle is white.a.minute.
Wait a minute.
Yep, with a dot between
Amazing.
each of the 3 words. So there's 2 dots in there. Or on Facebook too. I'm on there as Nick Ha though. So HA is where you can find me on Facebook. But my picture is accurate there. My baby face will be smiling right at you, so you'll know it's me.
Great. Well, really, really appreciate it, sharing your story and everything that you've been through. Again, thank you so much for sharing all of that. We typically go into a food portion. We haven't. We
That is
didn't
how
get
we
it.
do the show. Yes.
This is still part of that.
Okay, just in case.
We
do
are
the-
going to
So I
have
can
one.
cut that.
Yeah,
I
we
can
are
cut
gonna
that
have one.
together.
That was all
So-
extra.
Yeah.
just in case. I was just asking questions, guys. Come on.
Love your editor, Nathan.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I'm making you edit all this.
I love it.
So, okay.
Superb choreography here.
Yeah,
guys.
This is a classic show.
This is how the sausage gets made, bro.
This is how KJ stays up
soul
all night
sausage?
long.
Yeah. Hey, nice.
So, Nick, we would love to have you back on for the food segment. So here we go to the food. Like that?
Wait.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Sorry. All right. Nick, thank you so much for sharing our story. Oh my gosh. Nick, thank you so much for sharing your story. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we will be diving in with a food or drink item. We don't know yet, but you will because the episode will be finished. So here we go.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show food portion. We are here with Nick Capicotto. Is that close?
Yeah,
I think there was almost
I don't know
an
why
L
they're
in
laughing
there.
at me
No, I
because
like the inflection. That was
There was
awesome.
almost an L. I was like, there's no L in his name. It was almost Calpicotto.
That was good. You did great.
Hey, I'm just trying to be, authentic here, right?
Yeah,
I'm just
no,
like
you're right. You're right. I should be more inclusive of how people say names. I
Pronounce their names,
apologize.
right?
I'm
You pronounced it
apologizing
well.
on
We
air.
just had
it
this
well.
conversation about my no walk, Nick.
We
So
did. We did.
Picked the wrong person to come
to lead in, right? You're just gonna have to take it.
Anyways,
We are
Nick,
back
thank you
with-
for your interview. It was fantastic.
The interview was amazing.
It was
yes.
such a great
Thank
interview.
you, Nick.
It was. Thank you, guys.
And we're happy to have you back here for the food because this is half the fun. We don't want to miss this part of the show.
It's a real treat.
A little treat, if you will.
Thank you. I'll be a dad at some point in my life. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh,
Goodness.
I didn't even get it.
Dad joke.
Wow.
Couldn't even
Sub-level
describe it.
Dad joke.
Anyways,
What are we eating? What are we eating today?
We found an item in our Much Addict box again because we just love this box so much.
and it has lots of
And,
snacks. It is.
Thank you again,
White
Much
Heim.
Addict. It is White Heim. I
Oh,
probably
you got
shouldn't
the
say
whole
it like
box.
that.
Nice. Yeah, you probably should just.
Might want to
White
cut that
Heim!
one.
Yeah, let's
Oh,
go
you got a
back.
whole box.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
smallest. It's the only size I could find.
Yeah, I
man.
know.
Oh,
he
they
bought the
did
whole
no
box. I
individuals.
felt
hope you
bad
like
when I
it,
saw
man.
that he bought the whole box, but then I was thinking, but if these are really good, I'm going to be
Yeah.
jealous.
But if they're really bad, you're gonna have to send them $7.99.
White Heim. Does anyone ever look up A, what Heim means, and B, why it's German?
Well, I
Man,
can tell you
you know
one
I
thing: it's
don't
got
do
a
research for
natural
the show.
story. So no
Oh,
artificial
yeah?
stories in this piece.
It does say natural story. White hazelnut, which I do like hazelnuts. There's really very little to this packaging. It does not show much on it. So honestly, we have no clue if it's it feels like a biscuit, but a cracker.
You feel like a biscuit.
It does have the Korean website down here at
Yeah,
the
I
bottom of the
saw
back
that
of the
too.
package.
Crown.co.kr.
Which is the
We should have done
only
more
thing
research on
that-
the actual item, but hey, who knows? Maybe is there more on your box, Nick? Does it give a little more story about what it is?
No.
We don't even have
box is pretty. The
ingredients.
box is pretty limited here. I was hoping for a bit of a novel, but
Yeah. Well,
it's just a
I
bigger
guess
version.
the mystery will be solved once we open it. So let's.
Yep.
crack
I'm gonna
into
I'm gonna
this
dig
thing.
in. I will say I
packaging
like the
reminds me
color.
of like an airplane snack that you get with the beverage cart.
Like a Biscoff cookie.
Exactly.
All right.
That is kind of
Does
what that
look
looks like.
Crumbly. Like mine
feels
came
very
out
crumbly.
broken in half, like a Kit Kat. So it looks like it's got 4 round cylinders, wafer-like, and mine came out with 2.
Going in with the
Oh.
scissors.
It smells amazing, by the way.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. So that right there makes me think it's like chocolate, but
All right. I'm
don't
on a
know.
website called yummybazaar.com, and this is what it says. White Heim hazelnut cream wafer cookies are made by filling hollowed wafers with a creamy hazelnut cream. These Korean snacks have a light and airy texture that crumbles to reveal the nutty and buttery cream that flavors the wafer cookies. Oh, here you go. A little bit of history. Crown Sando started off by producing Korea's first sandwich cookie, and these hazelnut cream wafer cookies serve as an example of why the brand has remained as a staple since its founding.
All right.
So this is a staple. First sandwich cookie in Korea.
Ooh, this
Okay.
is amazing. Why did I just drop a bunch of... Oh, man, I got crumbles everywhere.
Yeah, mine's already
I'm
crumbled
digging
in the
it.
package.
I am too.
He's glad
It's
he bought
like-
the box.
Yeah, I know. See, now I want that box.
You do. Yeah, I have 18 of these packets in here.
Goodness. No, that's creamy for sure. It's pretty thin wafery, like
It is
flaky.
light and airy, as
Yeah.
the description said.
Much creamier than the last thing that we tried from Much Addict, which had a cream in it, but it was more of a paste.
That was like a fake cream, though.
Right.
Yeah, this is more of a chocolate for sure.
Yeah.
This is literally like a chocolate hazelnut inside a crunchy wafer. Wow.
Yeah.
This is definitely just white hazelnut cream inside of a crunchy wafer, if I had to describe it. If I had to describe it. It's exactly that. Oh,
Exactly what it says. Maybe that's why they don't put much description.
That's
They
true.
just let you eat it and make your own judgment.
I like that, actually.
I don't think
I
I'm
like
allowed
that.
to eat the other one because I think Sarah, when she saw it, she was like, "Oh, I love these. I want to have it." So I have to. She's not here right now, but I have to save it because I think she was disappointed by me not
What a
saving the
good
photo.
husband.
I'm gonna
you
say,
are.
you
Don't
know
worry, I'll
what?
send you some.
This is-
You know what, KJ? That actually inspired me to save my second one for Emily. So I'm going to set
Wow.
this aside.
Oh, man, I'll hook you up. Look.
yeah,
Nick,
just throw it.
You
just
White
throw it
Heim
in space.
ambassador.
$5.
Nick
put my-
Capicotto.
He's like, I need to sell these for my
face
school.
is gonna be on this box
It's
next
a
year.
fundraiser.
I hope so. Let's make that happen. Janchi Nation,
Crown.
we are getting Nick Capicotto's face on the White Heim box by this time
Yeah.
next year. Make it happen.
Hashtag face on a box.
I'm all for
That's
it.
that's a
like
terrible
it.
hashtag.
I like it.
So you guys are saving yours. You're really saving yours for
Yeah.
your wives?
I'm going to save mine
Yes,
for the
I
wife.
have. I think any other snack I could get away with it, but this one I'm pretty sure. If it's not this one, and she's like, "Gee, thanks," I'm gonna like, "Ugh." But like, if it, yeah.
Has she listened to the last episode yet? Because you definitely said, I'm not going to share any of this with Sarah, and then ate all the
I mean, I
snacks,
also
so I'm
told that to
excited
her in
hear that.
person,
Oh, you
so-
already
Yeah.
told her? Well,
Yeah.
cut that out. Cut out what I just said.
Well, I'm gonna have to cut all of it. That's not
Me
good
too.
podcasting content.
I'm going to save some also.
Am I going to be super chastised if I
Munch.
open another one?
Not at
No
all.
way, man. You
That
gotta.
just shows
We're
how
gonna
good it
eat
is.
vicariously through
Okay.
you right
I'll
now.
buy more.
Yeah.
Hashtag eyes eat
Promoting
first.
the brand here.
Support. Yeah, that's right. We're getting your face on that box.
Yeah, that's right. I can't get on there if I don't keep eating them.
That's very true. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Nick. You're going to have to eat White Heim white hazelnut bars for the rest
Yeah,
of your
we're
life.
really
for
sorry
the
we
next year.
introduced this to you.
The calorie
You know,
content is.
I'm sure it's light.
Oh yeah, what's the serving size
Oh.
and what's the calorie content?
So surprisingly, it's not as bad. I mean, I guess the light airiness. Do you want to know the serving size or the calorie count?
I want to know
first?
both.
Both.
Yeah.
Or first, serving size.
Yeah,
serving size is 2 of these packages.
Oh,
one
dang.
serving?
Oh,
Yes.
score.
Okay, so if
Interesting.
it's
Yeah.
2 packages, you said 110 on calories. Are you sticking
No,
with that?
no,
if
that's
it's-
what
if it's-
Nathan said.
If I didn't know it was two packages.
Here,
If it's
let's
2
guess.
packages. I'm going 180, 190.
All right, Nathan's 180
ooh.
or 190. We're calling it 185. What do you got, KJ?
I'm gonna say
Do a Price is Right style.
115.
184.
That's what you said?
115.
115? Dang it, I was going to go
Yeah.
low.
Go lower. I'm just.
Yeah, 114.
I'm going to do an even 100.
Even
Ooh,
100.
okay.
All right. Here, let's see if it'll.
Calorie content.
170.
Dang it!
You went
So
over.
close.
You went over.
Yeah, I mean, I still win, but I was very off.
Right.
I was way off too. But that's surprising that it's 2. I mean, it's 2, so 170, what is that? 85? That's nice
Yeah.
for one of the
That's not
packages.
bad.
And then that's only
So then
42 and a
half
half
of that
because I
is-
only ate one
yeah.
of them. So
Woo!
I'm healthy.
It's a great.
I'm healthy,
It's a great
baby.
time to be counting macros.
And
baby.
Nick is just following the directions and having 2 servings.
Yeah, way to go,
exactly.
man.
Yeah.
I like
mean-
it. And you're only getting in 170 calories with 2 packages. That's actually terrible because that would
Yeah,
make me
one
want to
quarter.
eat a bunch.
I'm going running after this anyway, so I'm cool.
Good for you.
Perfect.
Nice.
I would definitely buy these. Okay, let's do rating systems. I think we already know what we're all going to rate, but scale from 1 to 5 Heims.
Oh, okay.
Did you find out what that meant? By the way?
It didn't say on yummybazaar.com.
I'm not a huge sweets fan or dessert fan in general, but these are. I mean, this box might only last me till about 10 o'clock. So
that's how you know we
Amazing.
succeeded. He ate the whole snack, a whole box of.
yeah, and I'm
snacks.
not a big chocolate fan, so I'm glad like these were in there because I'm not like I prefer non-chocolate sweets over chocolate sweets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this really fits the bill. I'm giving it the full 5.
Full 5 Heims.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna give it 5 castles as well.
Is that what Heim means?
No, I'm going to
but
tell you what
they're-
Heim means.
Well, okay, wait. Actually,
I'll tell you what it means
I'm
when
gonna say.
you get to me.
I'm gonna.
You'll like it.
I'm gonna. What's the word? Correct my statement. It's not castles. I'm gonna say it's mansions because it looks more like a mansion than a castle. But 5 mansions out of 5. This is amazing. It is like I love the light airy texture. The cream is perfect. Sitting in your mouth is wonderful, and it just kind of dissolves. Yeah, it's wonderfully buttery. I wish that I had like an espresso to have alongside of it. Just a small coffee. I think that would really like make this whole thing really nice. And the lingering aftertaste, you really kind of get that nutty, that hazelnut sense, which is really, really nice. So this is one that's a keeper. So yeah, perfect 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 stories as well, because I think KJ literally used every descriptor from that original
Did I really?
description I feel like that I just read from, and I feel like it really was all of those things. It was exactly what it said it was going to be, and I like that little defining thing on the package that we have, which says natural story. That's what it is. That's what this snack is. It's a natural story that tells it just straight up. So 5 out of 5.
Yeah, but who's your favorite character in the story?
And in a way, if you think about
the
it,
Heim.
don't we all have our stories?
Don't we all have our stories?
Don't we all have stories to tell? I
This
mean,
feels
isn't
like
that
a
what our
bad-
show is
a
about,
bad
telling
transition.
stories. And here, let me go even deeper. The actual definition of, I guess the translation of White Heim, if it's German, which Heim I think is, but Heim means home. So it means
gosh.
white home, which is technically we all come from a white home.
Ugh, that makes me amending my rating 0. Just kidding. Just kidding, that company. Whatever your name was.
You once had 5 crowns, you now get 0 crowns.
Sorry, I just
Sorry,
had to
Crown
make that
Sando.
connection. I thought that was hilarious.
0.
Oh my god.
I'm just kidding. It doesn't detract from the taste. And Korean company, why are you using a German word on your packaging to label your products?
To have Korean adoptees,
Dude, okay,
critique
wait.
it.
I will say this is a weird thing in a lot of anime. I don't know if they're just bored with their own mythology, but they use a lot of European mythology, and so you get weird names that are very German in the anime. I know that's Japan. Maybe it's because Japan and Germany were part of the Axis, and so that's why they're like, yeah, that's fine. But anyways, I'm just like not entirely surprising to me, but maybe it's just because I'm an anime fan.
Yeah, lots of Greek mythology in anime, I feel like. All right, 5s across the board. Well, I don't know if we've had one of those in a while.
yeah.
I mean, we literally just had one with the Poto Poto.
Oh, right.
I think the last one was pretty good too. Yeah. Well, leave it to Munch Addict to give us a good product. I assumed they would. So.
It's a good point.
Maybe at the end of this box, we should go through and give box ratings to Jerry's mystery boxes 1, 2, Hello Korea box, and Munch Addict. So
I'm
we can
down.
say which has been
I
our,
would love
our
to
best
do that.
box so far.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But thank you,
Spoiler
Munch
alert.
Addict.
Sorry, Jerry's boxes.
Sorry.
I will say they
expiration
were
dates.
kind of the most fun, but yeah.
But yes, if you guys are interested in getting a box from Munch Addict, go to their website. They have lots of different packages and options to order. So I think munchaddict.com. Very thankful for those and looking forward to the other items in the box. We're taking our time with these for sure.
Yeah. So, Nick, one more time for the YouTube viewers, or I guess maybe not for the YouTube viewers, but one more time, where can people find you on the internets?
Sure. On Instagram, it is white.a.minute. wait a minute with dots between the words. And yes, it is a play on words if you have been listening to this episode. Or you can find me on Facebook, but I'm in there as Nick Ha. My birth, or not, yeah, my birth last. Not, I always say biological. It's like, no, you're not. Like, there's a moment in time, like, before you technically have your name
is
legally.
alive.
Right.
So yes, under my birth last name, Nick Ha on Facebook.
Cool. Well, and if you guys are interested, listen to Nick's episode. It is, this episode.
This is episode.
Listen,
Still here.
if you're
Listen to the thing that you just listened to again. Just go
YouTube,
backwards.
Go back and watch or listen to the full episode. Yeah, you know what I mean.
You guys can figure it out. Parse through what I just said, and then figure it out.
Really love Nathan doing stand up before the show, and just he's like, guys, they'll be here. Anyways, how about some jokes? So one time
I like
that's
it
like
too.
my favorite version of Nathan as host is like, anyways, guys, how about that water, huh, guys?
Yeah. Hey, what's up?
Anyways, yes, Nick, thanks for coming on the show. You can find us at the Janchi Show anywhere that we want to be found on. Wait, that's not what I say for
Nope.
the Janchi Show. I say you can find us at Janchi Show on all of our social platforms. You can send us an email to janchishow@justlikemedia.com. Please leave us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. If you want to hang out with us more during the week, we are pretty active in our Facebook group, the Janchi Show After Party, or you can try to get in on that sweet exclusive platform called Clubhouse if you just want to hang out with Patrick during work hours. It seems like a good time. For the listeners at home, he is waving. I know you can't hear that through the microphone, but he is waving vigorously. He's not happy about it. You can find me at KJ Relke wherever I want to be found on the internet.
You can find me at Patrick in the World on Instagram, hiding behind my microphone, or just my regular name on Facebook.
And you can find me at Nathan Nowak Photography. Pretty much it's everywhere.
So that's
Nowak
Nowak
Photo. on Instagram.
I was like, wait, you changed your Instagram handle and that can be that long?
No. It's not that long.
But
if you want to
Photo.
email me,
Such a wild
or DM me, you know the plan.
Anyways, thank you for hanging out with us, for listening, and we will see you next week. Until then, Janchi Heyo,
And
everybody.
goodbye. Oh, beat me to it by 1 second.
Bye-bye.
I liked it.
All right.
What?
He said Janchi Heyo, and then I was going to say and goodbye, but then he said it.
I said everybody.
And now we have that great ending tag to the episode.
Oh, yeah. Now we
All right,
have...
great.